Hello everyone, my name is Madeline Lynch, and today I'm going to be doing my multimedia comparative study on Herbert Ross's 80s classic, Footloose, and Francis Ford Coppola's film adaptation of the story of the 60s, The Outsiders. Both films, Footloose and The Outsiders, revolve around a film movement entitled German Expressionism. This film movement reveals isolated characters and often portrays distorted figures. Most of the time, art from the German Expressionism entails unshapely architecture and overdrawn stereotypes. Although both films alter in time period, they recreate the stereotypical character. The film movement German Expressionism is displayed in Herbert Ross's Footloose and Francis Ford Coppola's The Outsiders in order to represent an isolated character and the modern pressure to fit into society. Both directors implemented a socio-economic lens and costuming to represent the isolation by class division. However, the directors illustrated a difference of a religious lens and soundtrack to represent the rebellion of the characters. First off is The Outsiders. Francis Ford Coppola represents the poor rebellious boys as the isolated characters. He costumes the boys in torn small clothes and makes them look like they were from the gutter. He introduces a socio-economic lens by the language in which the characters communicate and their mannerisms. The first clip from this movie is from the beginning where the characters are trying to enter the drive-in. So here we see these three boys coming out from under the fence. It's almost as if they're coming out of hell. They're obviously doing something very sinful. They're getting dirty. There's barbed wire everywhere. I saw this religiously because it is almost as if they're pulling each other through. They're helping even though it's a bad thing. They're all slouched. They have their cuffs torn off. And they're walking by these socials who are dressed proper. They came in cars as though the rest of the people did, which very much so isolates these three boys who are nodding their heads, don't fit in, are dressed very differently in leather and jeans. And here we're going to see two girls walking by, and all we hear in the background, there's no soundtrack, there's just this catty thing that's going on in the drive-in. Here we see these two boys who represent the socials, and they're drinking, and they're girls when they're in high school. We see these greasers right here that are violating the property. They're jumping over the railing when we assume that this stairway is only a few feet away, because right now we're going to see these two greaser girls come through. This boy is being very ludicrous and very gross towards a car, which obviously he's a greaser. Now we see a very important socioeconomic lens. We see the boys behind the girls. We see that they're smoking in front of a grandma. We see that they're cold because they don't have clothes. And this just goes to wrap up how they use the costuming and the socioeconomic lens to truly break them apart from these socials. Next, Herbert Ross includes a city boy in this small rural community, which is Beaumont, and he's the isolated character. He costumes Red McCormick in leather and very dark colors opposed to the farmers and the townspeople's very neutral colors and materials such as jean. He also introduces the socio-economic lens with the town's mise-en-scène, which makes them look very poor, and also with Ren's modernized beliefs, how he believes in dance, and that just shows a higher class and a higher socioeconomic status than those who live in Beaumont. We're going to see the scene from the movie where Red is upset. He's dancing in a warehouse, and this is due to all of the backlash he's gotten because he is such an isolated character. He has different beliefs, and that just goes to recognize the socioeconomic difference. And we're also going to talk about the religious lens that Herbert Ross puts into this. So here we see Red McCormick driving up. He's in his Beetle. He has a cigarette, which is a popular thing for people to do in Beaumont. He's taking this cassette and he's putting it in, and this is where the director implements a soundtrack. This song in particular is important because it shows his rage. Most people in Beaumont listen to country music. Here he's listening to a punk rock song. It shows his isolation, even in music taste, and maybe a higher socio-economic status means he likes more intense music. Here it shows he is drinking, which means that he obviously has enough money to buy it or find it from somewhere else. We see the Reverend, and the Reverend has a big impact on him because the Reverend is keeping him from being his full potential self. And maybe the Reverend has an impact on the socioeconomic status of his life because he is seen as an outsider because he has this higher state, and he believes these different ideals. Here we see him walking through the hallways. He's obviously dressed nothing like the rest of them. Even here, maybe he's trying to reform to all these other peoples because he's wearing these sweatpants and he looks very calm. It's dress-wise, and he's dancing. This is a motif that constantly goes throughout the film, and if it were not for his dance, he would not be as isolated as he was. He's constantly being reprimanded for dancing, and this is what the whole thing is about. The whole thing that he's isolated only because of something that should be bring people happiness, but is actually a separation of social class. To compare the films, both The Outsiders and Footloose demonstrated a difference in status with costuming. The lower the class, the cheaper the clothing looked. In The Outsiders' case, the greasers were the one wearing the tattered clothes and looking rough. But in Footloose, the people of the town in Beaumont were the ones that were dressed rough, modest, and cheaply. Red McCormick was the outsider who was dressed nice. Both films also implemented a socio-economic lens to show how class division can divide those who do not fit into the majority. Although the similarities are large in the means of an isolated character, the films differ greatly. Footloose revolves around a soundtrack to assist the viewers of the film to connect Ren with an outsider of the town. The Outsiders use diegetic sound and few songs, but use them to sympathize for the greasers. Both films also have a differing way of using a religious lens. Footloose implies religion with the reason why Ren is isolated. He is viewed as the devil in the society. In The Outsiders, the greasers question God and are viewed in the film to have had humble beginnings such as Jesus had. To conclude, both films represent how any person who does not fit into society is judged. Both directors have given us a taste at what it is like to be an outsider.